Tricia, it is so exciting to have you joining us today for Fragrance Day. It's a very special day, Fragrance Day wise, but it's also a very special month. It's International Women's History Month. So since you and I know each other for quite a while, but the audience doesn't know you as well, if you don't mind, I'd love to kick this off with you saying what your current position is and a little about your journey as a woman to get to this moment in time.
Ooh, okay, so I'll try to keep it tight because I'm a little on the older side. But first of all, I love the industry. I've been in the industry since 1991. And my current position is I am the president for North America for Parfums Givenchy, Kenzo Parfums, and Acqua Di Parma.
Great brands.
And fantastic brands. And I honestly have to say, I feel like I'm in a great place. I'm the happiest I've probably ever been in my career, which is such an awesome thing to say. And I've loved every job I've ever had. I met a woman back in 1991 at a cocktail party who was an account executive for, at that time, a very tiny brand called Origins, part of the Estee Lauder companies. And back then, I want to say there was maybe 7 or 8. They were starting to roll their counters across the country. And I was captivated by what she did. And I had recently graduated from college and I decided I wanted to do that. She's like, well, you have to start behind the counter. Every good salesperson tells you that. And so I quit my job and I went and started to work behind the counter at Origins. And then I became an account coordinator for Origins. I held several roles at Origins, including regional marketing director. And then I went to Clinique. And I think that was the very first time I may have met you very briefly with one of my favorite mentors, Nancy McKay. And I was at Clinique and I switched over and I actually went in and I ran education nationally for Clinique for a little bit in the field. And then I became a VP at Estee Lauder and I spent over 10 years at Estee Lauder. And I was the senior VP national sales manager at Estee Lauder when I left, and I went and I worked for a company called Givenchy Products, which at the time owned Laura Mercier and Revive. And I took that job at the beginning to run North America, and then very quickly was asked to take on a global role, which was the first time in my career I had done that. I was part of the team that sold Givenchy to Shiseido. And one of my other favorite mentors, Terry Darland, at that time reached out and said, I think you need to come to LVMH. I think you need to come to Dior. And I went to LVMH back at the end of 2016 as the SVP of sales and education for Dior. And
here you are.
Just under 2 years ago, I came to these brands and I am loving it.
Well, you know, Tricia, it sounds like a journey, as it always does. It's almost like one thing leads to another and good people lead to others. So we're really going to dig in a little today so that you can share with our viewers how you got here, not just what you went through in those stages, which is very interesting and I think essential to understand you today, but really what you're doing now, because this is the pinnacle. And as you and I like to say, we're both presidents now, and we've known each other with a lot of titles along the way. So let's get into this.
Sure.
My very first question for you is, how do you mentor, support, and empower women through your leadership now at LVMH?
Wow, that's a big question. And I would say, if I was going to pull it apart, I'd pull it apart in 3 sort of buckets. And I would start by saying, I don't think that my leadership style flexes because of a teammate's gender. I do think that I probably create an environment that's super interesting to women because for me, mentoring, coaching, and ultimately empowerment is very individual. You got to understand people's hot buttons. You have to understand what are their strengths, what are the skills they possess, how can you help them build those skills. But I think my intention with empowerment is really, how do you create that level playing field? How do you create an environment so that people will engage? And I think the best way to increase performance is to increase engagement. And the best way to do that is to create an environment where people think they have a voice on any topic. And so I will tell you, this is near and dear to my heart, because my team will laugh when they see this, because yes, I want to win. I want to have great numbers. I want to drive great business, but I want our legacy as a brand to be the place everybody wanted to go, because it's where they see themselves. It looks cool. It looks fun. Everybody has sort of a hand in the success, because this is a team sport. Beauty and fragrance and anything that has more than two people in it, if you really want to win, it's a team sport. And so I'm going to give you a great example. So as a North American team, it was very important to me that we create an environment that's not non-hierarchical. I don't care what your title is. We pay you to have an opinion. And, you know, that was, I learned that super early in my career from Mr. Leonard Lauder, as I know you did as well. You know, we brought you into the organization because we know you can add value. We know that you're going to help us make this a big, important thing. And so I recently, myself and my entire North American team, we brought our Canadian office team down, and this was for my office teams. We went through a program called Dare to Lead. And what we really wanted to do was make sure that as an organization, we could align on how do we communicate, because we know communication is the answer to everything, right? It's where to go, how to go. And this is how we believed we could foster that desirable work environment. And so I want to read this to you, because this sits on my desk at home, and it sits on my desk in the office right next to my Fragrance Foundation pledge, by the way. And what we decided to is we created an LFB, so that's Louis Vuitton fragrance brands, which are the house of my brands, a team call to courage. And that team call to courage means every single one of us has committed to the following three things: leading ourselves and others with empathy, curiosity, and from a place of learning, no judgment zone. Then number two, we will commit to having tough conversations or providing feedback in real time with kindness and clarity. And the third thing is, we agreed and we aligned on collaborating and communicating in order to foster a culture of trust, because trust is where it all happens. And I have goosebumps when I say this to you, because I really do believe that if you polled my team anonymously, you would feel the same level of enthusiasm and excitement that you're getting from me right now. So that, in a nutshell, for me, mentorship and helping people grow is all about helping them find their voice and giving them a forum to use it.
You know, Tricia, first of all, that's a beautiful thing. And even though we've known each other in different roles, you really never know what the team is like with the leader very often. And it's a disconnect. I mean this sincerely, because I know so many people in the industry. But anytime I do talk to anyone on your team, the level of like excitement and that they're together, and I mean this, I'm not just saying it, that you're such a great leader is really a theme. And that's a difficult thing to handle on a daily basis. And the part you talked about where, you know, there's no hierarchy, everyone has a voice, needs to be encouraged, because people are very hesitant at times to really say what they think. So I love that story. I know it's not just a story, it's actually the theme of your everyday there. If you don't mind, because that's such a big deal, you have been such a big leader with the Fragrance Foundation about DEI, and you have been an hysterically enthusiastic player as we are going forward. So of course, because it's Women's International History Month, we're talking about that, but inclusiveness has to do with everyone who is really out there. So if you don't mind, because I go to this with you all the time, you know, hashtag Fragrance Forward TFF is our #1 priority. The pledge is on my shoulder. You've been a very important player. How does the whole DEI initiative from the foundation as well as from LVMH really become, how is it part of your everyday life? Because it sounds like it's in sync with what you just described as your leadership style.
Yeah, I think it's LVMH is a really the pride that I have in working for this organization, both in terms of DE&I and in terms of supporting women, is pretty amazing. I think you and I started to have this conversation 4 years ago, almost at this point, and I was wildly passionate about it, as were you. And we didn't know the answers. We just knew we needed to do something because we were finding that people we loved and cared about were paralyzed because they were afraid to say the wrong thing. And in their fear to say the wrong thing, everybody was kind of going dark and in avoidance mode. And the intent wasn't bad, but I think the thing that LVMH and Corey Smith, who you know is the LVMH head of DE&I, and an amazing teacher and coach as far as this goes, and a real human. You know, he helped me communicate with my team. Like, if you are coming from a place of learning and understanding and wanting to be an advocate and wanting to make a change and help, you don't have to worry about saying the wrong thing, because if you're listening and you're coming from a place that is pure of heart, people are going to help you along the way. They're not going to, they're not going to cast you aside because, oh, you said the wrong thing. This for me is something that is on the roadmap for eternity, because what we need and what people need and what people expect from us and need from us is changing all the time. And I think it's up to us as leaders and brands and organizations to use our platforms to help bring people together. And I think there are 2 examples at LVMH. And because it's International Women's Month, I'll use one that has to do with women. And then I'm going to go straight to my brand. I mean, the organization is unbelievable in terms of the things that Corey's leading and putting into place. And each of the brands have taken on based on, their size, what they can do. But there's so much sharing that goes on in terms of wins and invitations to come and experience and ask questions virtually, in person. But one of the things that made me so proud about joining LVMH when I did back at the end of 2016, beginning of 2017, is that I learned that there was an organization created in 2007 by Chantal Gamperl, who is the EVP of Human Resources and Synergies, called ELLES, ELLES, which is women, in French, VMH. And this organization was developed back in 2007 to help coach, train, develop, give women an opportunity to grow in the greater organization. And it started in France, but it is really a global organization today. And there are activities and networking opportunities and great ways for women at all levels in every company within LVMH to really get involved, to find mentors, to just have conversations, to network. So there really is a huge opportunity for women at LVMH as a whole. And I want to say they really formalized it very early on. And so for me, how psyched are you as a female who wants to grow in this industry to be able to enter something along those lines? And then if we talk about just equity and inclusion and being kind and thinking and listening, Hubert de Givenchy was a one-of-a-kind guy. Not only were women his inspiration, but he had a true care and love and respect for women. He also, on the other side, didn't believe in hierarchies. And here was a nobleman who, was became this amazing designer. That was not his path. And he was one of the very first luxury designers in the 60s, early 70s to have a Black model walk the runway. And so that's super cool and something to live into. And I believe that from a beauty perspective, Roman Spitzer, who's our CEO today, and a really kind and generous human being, he's trying to think of ways to use the platform also. And so there's a great launch we have coming, and we created something very special for the Fragrance Foundation for National Fragrance Day with Gentlemen's Society.
Which is just launching today.
It launched actually on Wednesday, 3/1.
Okay.
And it has been an unbelievable experience. But what I love about it is, okay, everybody should be going at this point. Okay, this woman is crazy. It's called Gentlemen's Society. Isn't she talking about inclusion? Yes, but here's the mantra of this brand, Gentlemen's Society. It's not a destination. It's a state of mind. All are welcome. This is where our differences become our strengths. Come and join us. This fragrance is a great juice, but the messaging for me is really an unbelievable necessity today, I think. And it gives us an opportunity to use our platform to say, our differences are our strengths. Come and join us. I'm in. And then it ends with, would you join the Gentlemen's Society? And in every presentation we've ever had, everybody's like, yes, I will join. So I think these are these are some of the examples, some of the ways that the greater organization and, one of the brands is using our platform to try to bring people together and create these opportunities and spaces.
Tricia, it's really great that you're sharing this, because what I would call in the olden days, like when we started in the beauty business, it seemed like it was a toxic environment. It was, what do you look like? It's how do you present yourself? It's how beautiful do you look? And in those olden days too, you take like a course on sexual harassment, like an online course. The difference of everything you're describing is how DEI is not like a course. It's not part of just HR. It's about how you live. It's how your whole company lives. It's how you integrate it with everything you're doing, including your most exciting current launch. So I think it's really important for people to understand that we want everyone included. We honor and respect, and we always say this, the more opinions in the room, the better the result is going to be. So to grow up in a society where it wasn't talked about, I also love what you said at the very beginning, so that people understand this is who we are, and we don't worry about saying the right or wrong thing, just say it and let's go together. So I think we've got a lot to do. People often say, how long do you think DEI will be a topic? For the rest of our lives.
Forever.
Forever. And if it wasn't, if there was a beginning and end, it would have been misdefined. So it is a pleasure to see you every day, but to see you on Fragrance Day to celebrate with us is extra special, because the other thing we've learned along the way is it's all about relationships and how you treat people. It's more important how you affect people's lives than how many bottles of fragrance you sell, but somehow the two are connected in this conversation. So happy Fragrance Day, Tricia. It's a joy to have you with us.
Happy Fragrance Day and happy International Women's Month.
Indeed.